Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Simply Lily podcast. Listen, I'm so glad that we're all here today because down where I live, we've had nothing but snow, 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 and everybody's been in the house and trying to get rid of the snow that we had from the previous snowstorm and uh, just waiting for spring to come. And I decided that as we close out February, I wanted us to pause together just for a moment. First of all, welcome back. There's just been so much I've wanted to talk about. Um, so, not to rush into what's next or not to pressure ourselves to be ready, but let's see where we're at right now. It is the end of the second month of the year. And believe it or not, it's one of the shortest months, but it's one of the months that has the most things that are going on. And February is also like a quiet month, you know? It sits between the cold of winter, where things are not as loud and rowdy, and then it's basically the promise of spring. We're waiting for that new change, the season, the time changes. It's brighter out, things are sunnier, and it's just a whole different vibe and a whole different energy. And in many ways, that's exactly kind of where our hearts often live right now, somewhere between holding on and like letting go. So today's episode is about love, change, and emotional clutter. It's about clearing what no longer fits so that we can step into spring lighter, freer, and more open than we've been in a long time. So take a breath, grab something to drink, and let's get started. So, first of all, let me keep it very, very, very factual here because winter isn't just a season, it's emotional. Winter has a way of collecting things like unspoken feelings or old disappointments, relationships that faded without closure, and even versions of ourself we outgrew but never officially released. See, winter doesn't ask us to bloom. It actually asks us to survive. I mean, really think about it. When we're in that about 8 to 10 weeks, it is literally the weather is so unpredictable. We're actually waiting to see what happens. We're hoping that if you ski, oh my God, I hope it snows so that we can go skiing. Then you're hoping that it doesn't snow. But then what is the winter without snow, depending on where you live? But it's basically always like in a survival mode. And the survival often means storing things away just to get through. Another thing that we do is we tuck emotions into corners and then we postpone hard conversations. We delay healing because it feels easier to just stay still. Again, that quietness of February. But here's the truth we don't always want to face what we don't process in winter actually becomes emotional clutter in spring. I mean, really think about it. You can't welcome something new when your hands are still full. And this is where love, real love comes in. And I'm not just talking about romantic love. I'm talking about self-respect, emotional honesty, and the courage to say there this no longer belongs to me. So we talk about emotional clutter. Like, what do we say? Like, what are you carrying? Emotional clutter doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like replaying old conversations, holding on to apologies you never received, staying connected to people who only exist in memory, and carrying guilt for things that you've already learned from. Like, we have to tell ourselves, I'm fine, but our spirit knows when something is heavy. Let me say this nicely. I should say gently. You are not meant to carry everything forever. Some feelings are meant to be felt, but not stored. Some chapters were meant to end, but not to be reread every night. And as spring approaches, this is your invitation to sort through the emotional closet of your life. What fits, what pinches, and what feels familiar but no longer feels like you. I'm going to add some scripture in there because, I feel that scripture always gives us a way on how to view things and see things in a different light. I mean, making room for the new. There is a scripture that speaks really nice to this season, and it's Isaiah 43, verse 18 to 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? The word springs isn't accidental. New things don't arrive loudly, they emerge slowly, quietly, and patiently. We can't rush things anymore. We take our time, but they also need room. See, one thing I could say is that God doesn't force the new, He invites us to release the old. And sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is let go of what God already carried you through. I'm going to leave that right there. You know, we're going to talk about love, healthy love. Like it needs room to breathe. You cannot receive new affection while clinging to old hurt. You cannot recognize aligned love if you're still emotionally negotiating with the past. And I'm in this segment like this because we are now ending the month, and this is the month of love. This is the month of change. This is the month of, getting ready for the next season. So, you know, what I'm saying applies to romantic relationships, friendships, family dynamics, even the relationship that you have with yourself. Spring isn't about intensity, y'all. It's about ease. It feels like peace instead of pressure. And that's what we want. That's what our goal is now, to have that peace. We want clarity instead of confusion and consistency instead of chaos. So if something requires you to abandon yourself, it's not love, it's familiarity. And familiarity can be very hard to release sometimes. So moving on doesn't mean that pretending nothing ever mattered, because that I would have to definitely say. It basically means acknowledging that it did and choosing not to let it live there anymore. Get rid of it, let it go. We can't change what we did yesterday. I remember hearing something in a movie saying, you can't live the same day twice. This is something like that. We got to move on. You can honor a season without staying in it. You can appreciate a person without reopening the door. And you can forgive without reconnecting, because we can do that. This is for our own sanity, for our own peace. And moving on is an act of self-trust. It says, I believe there's more ahead of me than behind me. And that belief, let's call that some spring energy. So preparing your heart for spring, how are we going to do that? We're going to say spring asks different questions than winter. We're transitioning. Winter is usually like, well, how am I going to get through this? Oh my gosh, we got to get the shovels out. We got to get the ice picks out. We got to get the snow blowers out. What are we going to do if the kids don't have school? We worry. But then spring is more like, how do I feel moving forward? How do I want to feel? And so here are some let me think about some reflections to sit here with. Like, what am I emotionally ready to release? And where have I been holding out of habit instead of love? And what kind of energy do I want to invite into this next season? I know one thing, as I approach 60 years old, I am not trying to hold on to anything that I can no longer fit into. I am trying to transition into this next milestone peacefully and gracefully. And one thing that we have to understand is that we basically do not need all of the answers today. Awareness is enough. Change doesn't start with action. It starts with permission. And that's what we're able to do now. So listen, I hope that February was good to y'all, and I hope that you're ready for this new blooming in the new season and getting into a better position. So, as we close out February and prepare for spring, I want you to remember this. You are allowed to outgrow what once felt safe. You're allowed to choose peace over explanation. And you're allowed to begin again, softly, slowly, and definitely intentionally. See, season 2 on the Simply Lily has been about becoming, about shedding layers and telling the truth to yourself first. And as we step into spring together, we're not rushing towards transformation, we're actually making room for it. Thank you for walking with me through this season. Thank you for your openness, your reflections, and your growth. Guess what? I'll see you all in the spring. Take care.